So, uh, so the Krishna is um, in the parampara system. Krishna is establishing this knowledge so the parampara system can bring that knowledge to us. And the demons, yes, that's what I was saying. The demons, you see in the material world, their whole effort, even in ordinary life, is to keep the public in ignorance. This is why they purchase the media stations. They purchase the newspapers. They do everything that they can to change, mislead the public. And those who are godly, they're trying to bring the real knowledge. So when this misinformation, this is a big word these days, right? Misinformation. Krishna is the first person who counteracts misinformation. He's the first true establisher of knowledge. That when this misinformation gets too prominent and widespread, then he comes. Yada yada hi dharmasya. Then he comes in every age just to establish this knowledge. And these famous verses, it's not by chance that they appear in this chapter. They say knowledge is power, right? There's another slogan that says, if you think knowledge is expensive, then try ignorance. So this was a fundraiser for a university, and they said, if you think knowledge is expensive, try ignorance. Knowledge is power. Ultimately, in any field of life, material or spiritual, if we have the knowledge, it's the most valuable currency of life. If you have the knowledge, you can get everything done. If all of us had the knowledge, each one of us could become millionaires overnight. Even in the business world of so-called money, it is the knowledge of how to do things, who to talk to, that leads some people to success. So that's in just a small, petty material thing. In spiritual life, this is completely the case. This is even more so the case. And the one way not to advance in spiritual life is to not get the real knowledge. And that's why false spirituality, like we were studying in the Ishopanishad, is even a greater calamity than no spirituality. Misinformation about Krishna or God is worse than anything else. Because Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas, being spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this knowledge is apaurushaya, superhuman. The Gita must therefore be accepted without mundane interpretation. Yes, you see. This is the Gita itself is telling why the Gita is so special. 1 second. Because Gita is spoken by Krishna, it is apaurushaya. It is the transcendental, the highest knowledge. And and its very unique, special quality is that it's spoken by Krishna. That's why we have so many Vedic literatures, but why we keep going back to Gita, keep going back to Gita, because it is Krishna's words directly. It's not even an incarnation or an expansion, but Krishna himself has spoken this book. So what could be better? What can be better? So this is text one. Krishna, people say, what is the need for the parampara system? What is the need for this process? Krishna himself is telling us this process. If we had any doubt, it's from the Lord himself. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Hamavyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manur Ikshvakave Bravit. The personality of God and Lord Shri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivasvan, and Vivasvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. So Krishna is saying, I first instructed this knowledge. It's coming from me. First to the sun god, not even humanly, it's even among the devas, the sun god, the highest planet, pretty much, Brahmalok is there, but he's telling it to Vivasvan, the sun, Krishna Surya Sama. This is why it said the sun represents Krishna. So Krishna Surya Sama, Krishna is the sun god. And the sun instructed it to Manu. He's the first man. Manu means the first man. And Manu instructed it to Ikshvaku. The science of work described in previous chapters is very old and authorized. Krishna taught this same science to Vivasvan millions of years ago. I mean, the whole world is very impressed with the Rig Veda. Why? Because the Rig Veda is the oldest extant text in the world. So, academics, they say, well, what's the oldest book in the world? The oldest book that is still known to humankind, maybe there's one older, but they say that the oldest book that we have is the Rig Veda. And that's why people say, what's the oldest book? So at least it should be considered. At least it should be read. Whatever's the oldest, right, will be respected. But imagine knowledge that's millions of years old. I mean, we're benefiting. We say it was written 5,000 or said 5,000 years ago, still so relevant today. Forget 5,000 years. It's millions of years old. And still that imperishable knowledge remains as brilliant as it was millions of years ago. Because the disciplic succession which carried this ancient knowledge down through the ages is lost, Krishna now instructs it again to Arjun, who is qualified to receive it, because he is a friend and devotee of Krishna. So this knowledge was carried down through generation after generation. Imagine millions of years ago. And the universe was so pure and pious, Satyug, Treta, Dwapar, that it wasn't lost. Because in Satyug, everyone was a godly person. Every single person, except for maybe a few demons. Like they were like cosmically bad people. But everyone was a devotee. Then when there's 25% drop in spirituality, then Treta Yuga comes. When 75% of the population, imagine, like we go to New York City, imagine like if not 100% of 10 million people were all devotees, what this world would be, right? So that's what Satyug is. Treta Yuga is like, okay, 7 million out of, the 12 million are devotees. Then Treta Dwapar Yuga is 50%. So until Dwapar Yuga was ending, this knowledge was there. But then it got lost. And then we were entering Kali Yuga, where only 25% are devotees. 75% are not, 25%, or Prabhupada says less, 25% or less. So then Krishna, he's speaking to Arjuna because he's thinking, first of all, now it's lost. It's been lost. And the next age really needs this help. So let me speak it. So the Gita is our friend. Krishna is our friend, so Gita is our friend. It's given by our friend, so it must be our friend. Krishna now instructs it to Arjuna, who is qualified to receive it, because he is a friend and devotee of Krishna. So Hridam Sarva Bhutanam. Krishna is our Suhrida, the dearest friend. So if we become a friend to him, it becomes revealed to us. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. So these verses are very special. Krishna is revealing to us the secret of how we get transcendental knowledge. And the first secret of getting transcendental knowledge is not about intelligence, but it's about the relationship between the person who's giving it and the person who's receiving it. Mm. Just like I was talking about business, right? The secrets of business. And there are secrets. There's trade secrets. There's secrets of how you can, make a lot of money from very little money, and investing and all these things. These are shared, not based upon intelligence. So many MBAs, they go and study at Harvard, but they're shared amongst friends, family members who are close friends, because they trust each other, they care for each other, so they're sharing it. So the same thing is about spiritual or transcendental science. That when Krishna or his devotee sees that the disciple, the devotee, is non-envious, is a friend, is uh, is a seeker of true knowledge. Their purpose in gaining that knowledge is to become a better servant of Krishna. Then Krishna reveals that knowledge immediately. Then they see, okay, this person. Prabhupada writes in a purport that the spiritual master reveals all the secrets of spiritual knowledge to the obedient disciple, to the disciple who is soul surrendered. And this we see is the truth in Prabhupada's life, in his disciples' life, that the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, who were very dedicated to him, whose only mission in life was to fulfill his desire, who had no ulterior desires or motivations, they became self-realized souls. Yasya deve para bhaktir yatha deve tatha guru tasyete kathita vakyam prakashante mahatmana. That those who have unflinching faith in the words of the devotees and the scriptures and the Supreme Lord, to them all the secrets of knowledge are revealed. The secrets of transcendental knowledge. Like we've mentioned before, so many places in the Gita, Krishna says this is the most confidential knowledge. And Prabhupada himself asks, he says, everyone has a copy of the Gita. There's millions and almost billions of copies of Gita that have been distributed in the world. So in what way is this a secret? It's available to everyone, but it's a secret because though it is there, though we will read it with our own eyes, though we may get a PhD in the Bhagavad Gita, and there's people who have, and not just Gita, but Chaitanya Charitamrita, it only becomes revealed when we actually surrender to Krishna and become his friend. And being in this academic world, it's actually very surprising. Like there's a scholar, as I mentioned once before, who translated the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita. I mean, how deeply he must have studied this book. Yet he was like, he died recently. Throughout his life, he never really um, took the content seriously. He just did it as an academic exercise, though he read it so deeply. But the friend, becoming Krishna's soul surrendered devotee. And so that's why bhakti is a process. And the effort to gain this transcendental knowledge is being a friend, right? By reading this, we are being a friend to Krishna because we're taking his words seriously. We're trying to imbibe his words. Krishna says in the Gita, one who studies this conversation worships me with his intelligence. But then again, Prabhupada says there's 700 editions of the Gita, but only this one is making as a devotee. Why? Because studying is there, but then the other editions of the Gita, they the translators want to become Krishna rather than a servant of Krishna. So texts 4 to 8 then tell us about the knowledge of Krishna's transcendental position. So after Krishna describes this in three texts very succinctly, how he's the source of all this knowledge, and it's all coming from him, Arjuna asks the common sense question. He says that Krishna, you're just 100 years old. How is it that you instructed this to the sun god Vivasvan over 100 million years ago? Right? So this is like at the beginning of creation. This specific creation is 4 billion years old. This specific dissolution and creation. And Arjuna says, uh, how can I understand this Krishna? At that time, Krishna was about 100 years old. Um, so, which you think, oh, wow, he was an old man, but he looked like 16 years old. But Arjuna was also then about 100 years old. How was he fighting in this war? Like a 100-year-old, can they actually fight? Well, we have to remember that it's Dvapar Yuga. So people used to live for 1,000 years. In Kali Yuga, now we have maximum 100 years, but before they used to live 1,000 years. So they had just passed 1/10 of their life. And Krishna, of course, is timeless. But Arjun, this is a question that he probably knew the answer to. But as a compassionate devotee and as a king, he was asking it for the world. It's almost like for children, yes. Well, that's such a simple question. So to this, Krishna then it's an opportunity for him to establish his transcendental position. Krishna's answer reveals his transcendental position. My birth and death are not like yours, for I appear in my original transcendental form, which is unborn and never dies. So this is the special quality of Krishna's appearance. People say that when God appears in this world, then either God is human or he can't have a physical body. But Krishna is saying both don't have to be true. He says, my birth and death are not yours, are not like yours. When I appear, I'm neither born nor am I impersonal, but I have a transcendental form, a spiritual form, which is unborn and never dies. The difference between the Lord and Arjuna is that the Lord remembered the incident, whereas Arjuna could not remember. That is the difference between the part and parcel living entity and the Supreme Lord. Although Arjuna is addressed herein as a mighty hero who could subdue the enemies, he is unable to recall what had happened in his various past births. Therefore, a living entity, however great he may be in the material estimation, can never equal the Supreme Lord. Anyone who is a constant companion of the Lord is certainly a liberated person, but he cannot be equal to the Lord. So the material conception is that I am God, right? We want to be God. This is what we were saying, why the other editions of the Gita are unsuccessful, because they say that Krishna is not God. God is impersonal. In fact, the Mayavadis say we are God, right? Here, Krishna is clarifying after, and you see how the Gita actually, spiritually, it's so logical, the progression. So Krishna tells Arjuna to be a friend, and this is why he can understand the knowledge of being a friend. And then right after that, Arjun asks the question, well, how are you able to do this? So that Krishna can establish that he is God. And what's the difference between God and not God? So that we can become his friend, right? So that we can understand our actual position and be his servant, want to be his insignificant, tiny servant. And here Prabhupada, the purport, is saying that even someone like Arjun, who is with God all the time, he's standing next to him, he's embracing him. Krishna becomes his charioteer. Krishna is being the servant of Arjuna. But even someone like Arjun, though they're fully pure and godly, they can never be equal to God. Because even as a pure devotee of the Lord, he cannot remember all of his past births unless Krishna wants him to remember all of his past births. He cannot remember all of his past lives. And this is why Prabhupada said that the spiritual master knows not everything, but he knows whatever Krishna wants him to know. So the spiritual master knows everything in the sense that they know everything that Krishna wants them to know. So they can know what is in our heart if they want to, because if they want to, then Krishna will help them. Or if Krishna wants them to know, then Krishna will help them because they're a pure devotee. But of their own power, they cannot. And that's why Krishna is so special. That's why God is God. And that's why, people say, well, when Srila Prabhupada came, there were problems in this movement. And when Srila Prabhupada came, he put people in leadership positions who later fell down. So if he's a pure devotee, how could this happen? Well, yes, he's a pure devotee, and still it can happen because he's acting on the in the interest of Krishna, but he's not acting like he is God. When Krishna comes, then he sets everything right. The whole world is, filled with jewels and flowers, and because he's God, and God is always God, right? Of course, he can empower the devotee to be just like him. But again, that's Krishna's decision. In this case, he's not empowering Arjuna to remember his previous lives. And sometimes he may intentionally, like in the case of Srila Prabhupada, not tell the devotee certain things because he wants the material world to also function in a way that we make spiritual advancement. If there were no challenges, if there's no problems, then how will we grow? How will we advance in spiritual life? How will we rise in spiritual life if we don't have challenges? So he leaves some challenges for us. Prabhupada said this is why in the world there's non-devotees, so that the devotees have service to do, to share Krishna consciousness and bring them to Krishna, or to overcome these challenges. And that's why Prabhupada himself faced so many challenges. And he left some challenges for us as well. Prabhupada said Bhaktivinoda Thakur could have made the entire world devotees. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was powerful enough where alone he could have made every single person in this devotee, and then this would have been like a whole devotee world. And we would have been born in a devotee world, and a devotee family, devotee community, devotee nation. But he said, but he left some service for us to do. That's why he didn't do that. Text 48, knowledge of Krishna's transcendental position. I will appear by my own will to re-establish and annihilate irreligion by uplifting the saintly and destroying the miscreants. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam shrujamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam dharma samstapanathaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So Krishna has taken the service, the duty of destroying the miscreants and uplifting his devotees. So there's a very deep message in this verse. Every verse can be taken, okay, this is what Krishna's saying, or it can be taken in the deep message It can be understood in the deep way that Krishna is sharing. So on one side, he's saying, okay, this is what I do. I destroy a religion, I destroy the miscreants, and I establish the spiritual path and the devotees. And on a deeper level, Krishna, what he's saying here is that I've taken the duty of doing this. So if we are a devotee, we don't have to worry about destroying the miscreants. We don't have to worry about defending ourselves or setting things right because Krishna has taken full charge of this. What do we need to worry about? All we need to do is just be good devotees, and Krishna will take care of everything else. So we can be at peace. We can understand this. And we will see that this is true in our life. We will see this at every step that is true in our life. That if we surrender to Krishna and we depend upon Krishna and we ourselves stay on the path of spiritual integrity, that um, we are just wanting to be a servant of Krishna, and we do our own devotional service very nicely, then whatever obstacles there are, whatever miscreants are trying to uh, destroy the devotional service of Krishna, Krishna will will help us. Krishna will remove that because that is Krishna's role. I don't have to do that part. I can simply depend upon Krishna. And depending on Krishna means that Krishna will also give us the intelligence. Depending on Krishna means, Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavatam, in the section of Prithu Maharaj, that when there's a problem, the devotee does not fight, but the devotee takes shelter of Krishna and chants the holy name of Krishna incessantly, very nicely. And very soon, by Krishna's mercy, those problems go away. Krishna solves that. The devotee takes shelter of the holy name of Krishna, first and foremost. And then, we have to do the functional thing of, dealing with things. But we know that Krishna is promising here, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam, that if we are his devotee, he protects us. And whatever is there that needs to be removed, sometimes things are there for our purification. So Krishna doesn't remove problems so easily. But whatever problems we're facing in this life, Krishna will remove them. Our job is just be a nice devotee. Just do our part. Krishna will do the rest. Bhagavad Gita 4:7 purport. It is not a fact that the Lord appears only on Indian soil. He can manifest himself anywhere and everywhere. And whenever he desires to appear, in each and every incarnation, he speaks as much about religion as can be understood by the particular people under their particular circumstances. So Krishna is so keen on sharing this knowledge that he speaks and appears wherever and anywhere where it's needed. And that's why Prabhupada here is saying this, and that's why we should not feel that Krishna is the only manifestation of God, and that uh, this Vedic path is the only good path. Because Prabhupada here is saying, our own source authority, he's saying in each and every incarnation, he speaks much about religion as can be understood by the particular people. And he can manifest himself anywhere and everywhere, wherever he desires. So Prabhupada confirmed that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. He said he's not God, he's the Son of God. He's the Messiah, the messenger of God. And Prabhupada specifically writes, he spoke as much as those people could understand. So Prabhupada quotes the biblical passage where Jesus says, I'm not telling you everything because you are not ready. Particularly, he says, I'm not telling you about the kingdom of God. And that's why you see in the Bible, there's no descriptions about Vaikuntha. In the Bhagavatam, there is. So it's less deep, but it's a true path. And it's a path that uplifts one it can lead one, Prabhupada says, to pure devotional service. Because though the information is not given in detail, the path of devotional service is described. Love the Lord with all your heart, mind, and soul. So if one follows that, the simple knowledge is there. If one follows that very deeply, then one can make advancement. One will make advancement. But we have more opportunity for greater advancement in the Vedic literatures. Knowledge about Krishna bestows liberation. So these chapters like full with the most famous verses of the Gita. So we just covered the two very famous ones. And now this one, Prabhupada quotes this all the time. In fact, I think, I may be wrong, but I think this is the most quoted verse by Srila Prabhupada, this verse here. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So how wonderful is transcendental knowledge? One who knows the nature of Krishna's appearance and activities does not take his birth again in this material world. And this is true. We see that those who have deeply imbibed spiritual knowledge, who have deeply studied this knowledge and have been practicing it, who have jnana and vijnana, both knowledge and realized knowledge, they live in a different state of mind. This knowledge has to affect you. There's a Harvard professor, he's a professor of divinity, Frank Clooney, and he says that knowledge must lead to transformation. You have to be affected by what you study and what you read and what you hear. So if we are imbibing this knowledge through the words of the devotee, right? That is a way of getting the knowledge. So if we don't get the knowledge, then we won't make it. Like we were talking about the academics. We're just studying the literal meaning. They don't actually understand. No, Krishna is saying surrender, that really means surrender to him. But if we get that knowledge and we study it, we imbibe it, it has to affect us. And even for the academics, they may not become full devotees, but they are affected by it. They are making some advancement. It's slow, but it's transcendental vibration. So if they are studying it and translating it to some degree, it will affect them. And they make progress. But to a devotee who fully takes shelter of this knowledge and understands Krishna's appearance and activities, they don't take birth again in this world, but they attain Krishna's abode. So simple. We just have to keep at it. Just keep studying the Bhagavad Gita, little by little, every day, day after day. The Lord says that he incarnates himself in every millennium. This indicates that he incarnates also in the age of Kali. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the incarnation in the age of Kali is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who spread the worship of Krishna by the Sankirtan movement, congregational chanting of the holy names, and spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world, throughout India. He predicted that this culture of Sankirtan would be broadcast all over the world, from town to town and village to village. Just see how Krishna loves his devotees so much that Lord Chaitanya could have spread this Krishna consciousness throughout the world. But he loves his devotee, particularly Srila Prabhupada, so much that he left it to Srila Prabhupada to spread it all over the world. He gave the glory to his devotee, and he spread it throughout India. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spread this mission. He established this so that he can fulfill his word, that he appears to annihilate the miscreants and to establish the true dharma. And when we say, well, Krishna hasn't fulfilled that in this age, he is doing that. He did that and he's doing that. He's spreading it all over the world. We didn't get left out. Now it's just up to us to jump into this nectar ocean of the spiritual world that is being shared with us. This wonderful movement of Krishna that is there. And first and foremost, take advantage of the chanting of the holy names of Krishna, which is the dharma of this age, which can uplift the whole age. And Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, these transcendental vibrations will spread throughout the world and they relieve the world of their suffering, right? Tava katham ritam tapta jivanam. They are actually the words themselves. They are the panacea, the the remedy for the suffering of all people in this age. So Krishna has given that remedy, and that remedy is spreading all over the world so that no one has to suffer. Everyone can become fortunate in this day and age. Text 9 to 10, effects of knowing Krishna's transcendental position. Those who understand this about Krishna's appearance and activities are liberated. Many persons in the past have thus become liberated from attachment, fear, and anger, and ultimately achieved love for Krishna. So we may feel sometimes a little disheartened, dejected that this process is not working and what's happening. And I still feel angry. I still feel attached and things are not clear. But it's amazing that if we keep at it, if we keep working in this process, if we keep uh, applying this process, very soon we become free from attachment, fear, and anger, and ultimately achieve love for Krishna. Very soon we will see it working. We will see that it is actually making a difference, and these things are reducing, and love for Krishna is increasing. That's Krishna's promise. He's telling us it will happen. It must happen. But we should not give up heart, right? We should not give up. We should never feel disheartened because the challenges themselves are Krishna's ultimate blessing. They are there and they are there to free us from attachment, fear, and anger. To, on a very subtle level, to continue purifying the consciousness. And I mean, I don't, you see this in other devotees' lives more because they're more advanced. You see in their life how Krishna puts them through so much. And you wonder, there's such advanced devotee. Why is Krishna doing this? At the same time, then you see how Krishna so closely embraces them. And then you really get faith in your heart that, wow, yeah, this, if you dedicate your life to Krishna, Krishna has to keep purifying you. Krishna has a big task to take us back home, back to Godhead. And we think that, generally we think about this ourselves, that, oh, I made it, right? But even if we're okay, thank God we're a little humble, we think, no, I'm far away from the goal. But we see others who are so advanced, we think they've made it. What more could they sacrifice for Krishna? But Krishna keeps purifying them. And it's his mercy. But then you see that he does amazing things in their life. And that's his embrace. That his embrace, he 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 gives them the thing that they're searching for, which is love for Krishna, right? A devotee, this is why Queen Kunti welcomes distress, because she's so greedy after love for Krishna that she says, whatever it takes. And so, because these devotees have that mood, Krishna's giving them what they really want. We want happiness and peace and comfort, so we can't understand that.
Hare Krishna devotees. Prabhu's laptop, he's restarting his laptop. So it'll take him 2 minutes to get back.
Thank you, Mataji.
I apologize, my battery went out. So, all right. So now we're here. Then someone may be worried that, well, I'm practicing this process of Krishna consciousness, but will I make the goal? But Krishna here then in the next verse tells us that all paths lead to Krishna. Ye yatham mam prapadyante tang sataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvasha. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. So all paths lead to Krishna, but those who surrender to him more, they get more of a reward. So some people, they feel that, well, bhakti is just about grace. And there's actually a whole movement that says that it's just about grace. The followers of Satyanarayan Baba, they say this, that bhakti is about when Krishna wants to liberate you, then he will liberate you. Bhakti has no cause in us. The cause only is Krishna's desire. But here Krishna is saying, no, as you surrender unto me, I reward you accordingly. Right? So if we surrender to Krishna more and more, of course, Krishna reserves the right that he may not reveal himself to us because he's not bound by our surrender. But if we surrender more, then Krishna, out of his own voluntary choice, though he's not bound, he's saying, I will reward. So this is his promise. And what does surrender mean? Surrender means uh, um, becoming um, uh, fully dependent and surrender to Krishna's will. So surrender doesn't mean demand. So so we cannot demand because the very definition of surrender is not demanding, it's surrendering to Krishna. But if we surrender to Krishna, then Krishna will reward us. Everyone follows my path, but you're rewarded accordingly. So this again, in of itself, this verse is such a big theme, especially in India and Hinduism. They say that everything, whatever you do, it will lead to Krishna. That is true, but Prabhupada says that it's also not true. All roads lead to Rome. But if you're going on the wrong direction, if you're going in the wrong direction, then all the roads lead to Rome, but you're going in the opposite direction. All roads lead to Rome, but you may take the slow path or you may take the fast path. So you may go by a car that goes 80 miles an hour, or you may decide to go by a bicycle. So your speed is up to you. The direction is up to you. The service is up to you. And that's what he's giving us the balance of both. Everyone is worshiping Krishna because even the demon is making advancement, because in the material world, everyone is making advancement. Everyone has to make advancement because everyone is under Krishna's care. But they're making advancement by the process of um, being entangled in material life, being chastised by material nature, rather than being under Krishna's internal energy. Chaturvanyam maya shrishtham gunakarma vibhagasha tasya kartaram api mam vidya kartaram avyayam. According to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. And although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. So after describing how there's many different paths to come to Krishna, Krishna now describes how he's given four different paths according to our different natures. Even the path, even Varnashrama and its various divisions are different paths or means by which people can approach the Lord. And so this verse here is a source of what has now become the infamous caste system, but what used to be the original Varna ashram system. And the original system, we can see it's a divine system. It was given by the Lord himself. So that's why it's here. So this is actually a big topic. And yeah, so we probably won't finish chapter 4 today, but since we have a little time, I'll just get into this topic because it's a very interesting one and very important one for us to cover in Bhakti Shastri, because it comes up very often and we need to know how this relates with the caste system. So the system of Varnashrama, Varna refers to a person's occupation, and Ashrama refers to the person's stage in life. So Varnashrama was the original system, the pure system, which had two parts to it. One was, what is your occupation based on your nature, and what is your ashrama, which is the stage in life. One's material dharmas are determined by one's varna and ashrama. One's material dharmas are determined by one's varna and ashrama. Eternal dharma beyond varnashrama is called sanatana dharma. Right? So our material dharmas, they are based on two things. What is our nature that we're born with, and what is our stage in life? So if one is of a nature of a businessman, today we're picking on the business people, right? And one is a student, then one's varnashrama dharma will be to study business. If one's nature is to be a businessman, but one is a householder, it will be to do one's business. And if one is a businessman and is then vanaprastha, their dharma will be to start giving up the business. So based on the ashrama, the activity completely changed. Based on the varna also, it can change. So varna and ashrama is actually dependent on one's body. It is actually, dharma is connected with our body. It's related to one's body. Then we have the eternal dharma, which is beyond varnashrama, which doesn't change. Rather, one's a baby or an old person or a middle-aged person. That is called sanatana dharma, one's eternal dharma. And that never changes. That's true for everyone, regardless of men, women, young, old. That is the dharma of the the eternal dharma of the soul. So in Vedic knowledge, dharma means duty. It also means virtue or righteousness. It also means ethics. So in the Vedic concept, one's dharma, one's duty and one's moral action, or what is ethical, is dependent upon not just rules of ethics, but it's also dependent upon who we are. It's dependent on what is our varna and what is our ashrama, which is very similar to what in the Western society is known as virtue ethics. Virtue ethics says that what is ethical is also dependent on who we are. They recognize that. And why is that significant for us? Because who we are is our varna, right? That is recognizing that people have to act according to their particular occupational duty. For example, for a soldier or a guard to not be heroic and not to protect in the face of um, of a criminal is uh, is very bad, right? One's one's duty, one's moral character is dependent upon who one is. So if one is a guard, one must protect. But if one is a student or teacher and they hide, they're not courageous, then that's okay because their varna is not to be a soldier, but it's natural for who they are not to do that. So the example of that is recently there was not recently, but some time ago there was a school shooting, and when the shooting happened, everyone hid. They're hiding, and there was a security guard at the school, and just like everyone is hiding, he also hid. But after the shooting happened, and maybe 10, 15 people died, students, some teachers died, the media was really criticizing the guard. They were criticizing the shooter, but they were also angry with the guard. But everyone hid. But why they were criticizing the guard? They're criticizing the guard because one's dharma or one's moral duty is also determined by who one is, right? One's varna and one's ashrama. They never blamed the children. Why? Because they're ashrama, they were young. They never blamed the teachers because though they were the same age as the security guard, they were trained in teaching, not in fighting. But the security guard is trained in fighting and was the age to do so. So he should have stood in, and he even had a weapon. He should have tried to protect, but instead he was a coward. So material dharmas are determined by one's varna and ashrama. So these are the ashramas. As many of you know, the brahmachari is ages 0 to 25. And this is the age of study, of celibacy, of discipline, practice. Grihastha or householder is from the ages of 25 to 50. This is the time of Grihastha life, doing our householder life in service to Krishna. Then you have Vanaprastha, retired life. The main duty. So in the first 25 years, the main duty is spiritual advancement. Study for spiritual advancement. And one is simply receiving spiritual knowledge, spiritual training. In Grihastha life, one is giving it to their children. One is giving it to others also. As a Grihastha, using one's resources to serve the other ashramas. But in Grihastha life, there is some distraction. It's not 100% focused on spiritual life because work, all this stuff, you have to do some material things also. But then at the age of 50, again, Vanaprastha life, spiritual life, 100% focus again. And sannyas, again, 100% focus, even more intensified, full sannyas, full surrender. So you see in the spiritual varnashrama, 3 out of the 4 stages of life are simply dedicated for spiritual life. Most of the life stages are just for spiritual life. And even in the one stage that's there, even there, one is a householder for Krishna. Even their spiritual life is at the forefront. In these ones, it's only spiritual life. In this one, okay, there's something else also. You have some material desires, you can fulfill them, make your million, and have your kids and this and that. But there also, spiritual life is at the forefront. So everything in Vedic civilization was focused on the spiritual advancement of the individual. The ashramas were given as a way to help one progress to the perfected stage. And then the varnas are four in nature. You have the brahmana, the priests or the teachers, the kshatriya, the warriors, the administrators, the vaishyas, the farmers, the business persons, and the shudras, which are the laborers or the employees. These are working. So Prabhupada said that the varnas are like the compared to the body of a person. The brahmana is like the head. They are teaching society. They are doing the priestly work. They're giving the vision. They're giving the knowledge. The kshatriya, they're like the arms. They're protecting that knowledge. They're guiding the society. The vaishyas, they are the farmers, the business persons, and they are the stomach of the society. They're feeding the whole society. They are the farmers with bountiful land and nice fruits and so nice, orchards and flowers, cows, serving the cows. And the Shudras, they are working for any of the three other Varnas. They're employed. They are, every business needs employees also. You cannot just have business owners. Every civilization, every government needs workers to keep things in order and, you know, direct the traffic, this, that, the cow traffic and the buffalo traffic. And then you have the teachers. They also need, uh, the school needs to go on. So the Shudras, they are working, yet they also take great pride in their work. They're very talented. They're craftspersons. They have great um, intelligence in their field of work. They're great at sewing. They're good at textiles. They're good at painting. They're good at constructing things. So sometimes people who are very skilled in something, they're more even valued than the business owners, right? Like a modern example, like the top IT people it used to be, who were the geniuses in software development. They were sometimes earning more than the CEOs. Why? Because every company wanted them. They knew that, these people, they can produce a product that can, any businessman can then become a billionaire because everyone will want that product. So the Shudras also in previous times, they were greatly respected. We find that Ramananda Rai was actually of a Shudra family, yet he was very, very wealthy. Even before meeting Lord Chaitanya, he was, very aristocrat. Not that because he was a Shudra, he was just, a street sweeper. In every Varna, you have successful and unsuccessful people. You have the small business people, one's really struggling selling pan, but their nature's business. They still have to do business, but it's a very simple business. And you have the business people who are jewelers and millionaires, or who are um, uh, in charge of all the grains and all these things. In the same way, you had Shudras who were very, very skilled and well respected based upon their effort, their talent, their good fortune, and others who are doing very simple jobs, simple work. So all four of these Varnas, Krishna is saying, I've created them because in this world we will always find people with this nature, with these four natures, with these four different natures. Someone may wonder, well, why then everyone couldn't be a priest or a teacher or a warrior or a kshatriya? Because the point is they don't want to. You find kids, they got like their parents have a big business, is that, but they're like, no, I want to be a pilot. It's like, you have this whole business, right? But no, I want to, because their nature is such. It's not because the opportunity is not there. Their nature is such. So if we work according to our nature, we're happy. So people are happy working according to their nature. And so one last thing I'll say, and then we'll end. Then we'll continue this topic of Varna Ashram next time because it's a very big topic. But I should finish this slide, just this thought that in each one of these Varnas, there are some benefits and there are some trade-offs. So that's why the system of Varnas was very fair. In the case of the Brahmanas, the priests and the teachers, they were the most respected members of the society. The Brahmanas, Go Brahmana Hitayacha, Krishna even respects them. So very respected. But what is their trade-off? What is the sacrifice for the teachers? Who wants to say? In the Vedic system. This is trivia. So they
No
yes.
household life.
What did you say?
No household life for brahmanas.
No, actually, that's the sannyasi. So that's the ashramas, right? That's the fourth thing. But the Brahmana, most of them actually in the Vedic times were householders, but one type of household life is not there. Someone else was also saying, who was there? Someone unmuted. So they're the most respected, but what's the trade-off?
So wealth accumulation, right?
Hmm. They're sometimes wealthy also, Brahmanas, but they don't take a salary, right? So for their teaching, they can never be paid. And this was because this kept the teacher beyond, uh, beyond, you could say, it kept them neutral, unbiased. Because if the Kshatriyas were paying the teachers, then they would be obliged to teach them, teach their students what they wanted, right? Just like these days that's happening. The media is funded by the government. Everything's funded. So they have to only repeat the people who are paying them. Because at the end of the day, they have to feed their belly. If this person's giving me money, then I have to say what they want me to say. So to keep the independence, yes, the word is independence of the Brahmanas, they would never accept a salary. We saw this in the case of Chanakya Pandit, which often meant that they would live in poverty. Their only acceptance could be charity, right? Someone can give them gifts, but they were not working for anyone. They could never accept a salary. So yes, so their trade-off is austerity, no salary, um, uh, a life dedicated to service of the Lord and of society. We find Dronacharya, he's even teaching his killer because this is their sacrifice. He knows this Drishtadumna, he will kill me, but it's okay. Then Kshatriya, he's a warrior administrator. They get so much wealth, power, they're the kings. But what is the trade-off for the Kshatriya?
Their life.
Their life. Very nice, Sajanya. Yes, that the trade-off is if there's a battle, they will stand first in line. And that's why you see the modern Kshatriyas are so corrupt because they're the ones in the very back. They don't even leave their office. They send the poor soldiers, you fight in the front lines while they sit. But in Vedic system, Arjuna was right in the front. Yudhishthira, Bhima. So they say, we'll get all the wealth. Not all the wealth, but we have a big wealthy life power. But anything goes wrong, they must protect all the citizens. The citizens can be safe. They have to take the headache. The Vaishya, they are the farmers, the businessmen. They again have very nice business. They have labor, workers. But what is their trade-off? What must they do?
No personal profit.
No personal profit. Well, no, the business means profit, but something related to that, what you're saying. It is their duty to feed the rest of the society. So they must provide. It is their duty to all the ashramas and all the varnas. The Vaishya community provides. They provide to the sannyasis, they provide to the brahmacharis, they provide to the vanaprasthas. They cannot just be, I got my money and I'm sitting in my $1 million house and close the doors. Anyone who needs help, it is their duty. Prabhupada says that the Vaishyas and the Grihasthas particularly, before they eat, they would go in front of their front door and 10 times they would call out, is there anyone hungry? Does anyone want food? And after feeding anyone who is hungry, then they would sit and eat. So imagine in that society, there's no hunger. People say, end poverty for all. This is the simple way. If every person followed this, there would be no poverty in society. Even amongst devotees, our modern thing is, we stay within our ivory towers, that that this is my life, my comfort, and it's a burden for devotees to host sadhus, but that is not our duty as grihasthas and vaishyas. We should know that the trade-off is we get comforts, unlike the sannyasi and the brahmachari, but our duty is therefore to serve society, the other more dependent sections of society, the elderly, the children, the renunciates, and that is their service. And the Shudras, they have an easy life. They don't have to worry about the business failing. If COVID comes, they don't have to worry about, will my door stay open, will it shut down or not. They don't have to fight in battle like the Kshatriya, boys do. They don't have to live in, without a salary. They got a fixed income, easy job. That's most of society today, right? But what is their trade-off?
Maybe
They have the
ego.
Say it again. Either one wanted.
Sacrifice ego because we have to work.
Yes. Yes. The sacrifices of service. Well, we have an easy life. The trade-off is the businessman. He's going to make the decision. We're not going to.
They are surrendered to their boss.
Yes. Yes. They have no choice but to surrender because they're working for them. And yeah, that's the trade-off, to be surrendered. So we can all become an Elon Musk, but then we have to take the stress of Elon Musk, which if you read you hear some of his talks when he wasn't this rich person. I'm not supporting him. I'm just mentioning this as an example. But he was saying that I used to sleep sometimes 2 hours at night. I would sleep inside the business in my office. He is working 22 hours a day. And at times, the whole thing was about to fail. He said, I wasn't running the business was running me. So he had a very difficult life, and therefore he could also make the decisions. He was a business owner. But the laborer, the Shudra, has the benefit. They can sometimes make more spiritual advancement because they have an easy life. But then we all have experienced who are working, then they have to bite their lip sometimes because they are employed. So these are the benefits and trade-offs of each of the varnas. And this is why no one in Vedic culture was envious of the other. Prabhupada especially mentions this very nice point. He says, no one was envious of the other because everyone knew that there's some benefits, but they've got to make their sacrifices as well. And everyone was happy wherever they were because that was their nature, and they took pride in their work. Pride in the good sense, that they value their work. Okay, so it's 8:28. We'll take a few comments and questions. Today we will start with Lavanya Mataji and Andhesh Prabhu, and then after that we'll, yes, because they were last time. Lavanya Mataji, would you like to go first?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Sorry, it just I was I started very late today.
Hmm.
I completely forgot about this. Yeah, and I think that, my question was about demigod worship, Prabhu.
Hmm.
Yeah. So if, just a second, I think I've noted it down, the point.
Hmm.
I'll just refer, Prabhu. Yeah. So it's about the function of the demigods.
Hmm. Hmm.
So if why should we worship demigods? If we go to that question, Prabhu,
Hmm.
and here itself it says that they are the empowered administrators, like
Hmm.
that they establish everything. They are representatives of everything, like the sun, the moon, so all these things. But Lord Shiva doesn't come into these category, right?
Hmm.
So but even then, there are certain rituals. Even in ISKCON we see that we follow certain, like you do a yagna,
Hmm.
like we actually say swaha.
Hmm.
So they
Yes.
say that swaha devi or something, the wife of the fire god.
Hmm.
So why are we offering it like that, Prabhu? So when we do the fire sacrifice or something, why can't we just follow for everything that just Krishna is everything? So why can't we worship even fire as Krishna?
So yes, and the reason why, for in general, is because there's different levels of people. So yes, we can. The thing is that everyone can just surrender to Krishna because that is the goal. That's
Mm.
what Krishna wants us to do. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. And every person can just serve Krishna and make their life perfect. No need for any of this. But because there's different levels of people, like we were saying, Varnashrama, it's a gradual development of the soul.
Mm.
And some people are not on that level because the hardest thing to sacrifice is not greens. The hardest thing to sacrifice is not, fruits and wealth. But what's the hardest thing to sacrifice in this world?
Mm.
It's our ego, right?
Ego.
So if someone can sacrifice their ego, surrender to Krishna, no problem. But because they can't do that, then the scripture says, okay, sacrifice some grains. At
Mm.
least, take some of your grains, put it in the fire, do some charity, do some all these things. So therefore, all these processes are there. And
Mm.
now our choice is that we can get entangled in all these processes,
Mm.
or we can rise above all of them. Like Krishna's telling Arjuna directly, um, um, what does he, the Sanskrit of the flowery words of the Vedas. Um, the verse, we know this verse, someone may know, remember this verse? He says, don't be entranced by the flowery words of the Vedas. The Vedas speak in all these ways. Oh, you can do this yajna and you can become this person, become this mystic yogi. But the flowery words of the Vedas, they should not attract us. But but seek the goal of the Vedas. That's what he tells Arjuna directly. He says, what is the goal of the Vedas? You fulfill that, you practice that. And then he tells that's surrendering to Krishna.
Mm.
Yes. So
Yes.
yes, Shiva worship is there because he's also a form of Vishnu. He's also not fully a demigod. Lakshmi worship is like, all that worship is there. But the essence of all of that,
Mm.
even if Shiva worship is ultimately, surrender to Krishna. And that
Mm.
is the goal of the Vedas.
Okay. And what about this fire sacrifices we do at home, right? Rasimha Yagna or something. But
Hmm.
we are not directly, actually, we are worship, like, we say Swaha. That's what
Hmm.
I heard. So what is this Swaha mean? So what I heard is it's a wife, of a fire god or something. So
Hmm.
that is why we actually offer it to
Hmm.
the fire god. So what my question was, why can't we just do it? Think of Krishna and do it as Krishna itself.
So, but the fire represents Krishna. It is the mouth of Krishna. And,
Okay.
just like um, the wife cooks and feeds the husband.
Hmm.
So we are offering swaha, we're offering it through the wife of Krishna.
Perfect. Okay.
But it is Krishna. And that's why
Hmm.
even the great sages, the devotees, they were doing yagyas, sacrifices, because the same yagya we can do in the mood of bhakti. And
Hmm.
like we see our ISKCON devotees also do, they're chanting Krishna's holy names, they're doing the Nrsimha mantra, and they're putting grains into the fire
Great. Yes.
because
Yes.
they're basically offering, like we offer our bhoga to Krishna, right? We offer the food to Krishna. They're offering food, but rather than to the deity, they're doing it to Krishna in the form of the fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what it means is, though Vedas recommend all this, I mean, for different, stages of bhakti, right?
Yes.
Those in, the highest platform of bhakti,
Mm.
they actually seek to worship, directly surrender unto Krishna instead of all this. So, Prabhu, so when actually we go to that planet of that God
Mm.
whom we are worshipping for,
Mm.
so we cannot jump from that planet to Krishna. Again, we have to come to this earthly planet, do our
Yes.
service, devotional service, and then only then you approach Krishna, right?
Yes.
So that is the order. So we don't jump from one planet to the other. So I don't know how to frame this question, Prabhu. Maybe I'll write it down and give you, because there is one kind of confusion in my brain which I'm not expressing these words. So I know I'll make a detailed thing.
So we can go back to Krishna from any planet. Even the
Oh,
demigods
okay.
go back to Krishna. However, generally speaking, it's from the human form, because a human life is very suited for spiritual advancement. As a demigod, we tend to get distracted with all the demigod happiness. So therefore, even the demigods often, like you're saying, come back as human beings and then attain perfection. But some demigods are seeing Krishna's pastimes. They're participating in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Some of them are very advanced devotees and they can go back even as a demigod. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay, Prabhu. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Desh Prabhu. You're,
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Prabhu, my question was balancing, last week it was balancing family life with their sadhana. So since they're both part of devotional service, like we can't give up any of them. But we see that sometimes like family life become really hectic, like could be work, could be managing our family members. So that is also part of devotional service. And our sadhana is also part of devotional service. So how do we find a balance between these two, since we cannot give any of them up? So like we both have to do them. They're both duties. So one to the guru and one to, like our family members. How do we strike a balance between both of these?
Very nice. Yes. So actually, our family life becomes part of our service, right? In the initially we may see not just family life but other things also as either or, right? And this is initially means very initially, like people like Christians who go to church, they think this is my spiritual time on Sunday and the rest of the week is my regular time. So we have like our regular time and our spiritual time. But in a devotee's spiritual life, we don't see any difference between Krishna's time and our time. It's all Krishna's time. So our family is also there to be engaged in Krishna's service. Our family life is also for Krishna, and our sadhana is also for Krishna. So we mix the two. We do our sadhana, and we do it with our family. We engage our family in sadhana, and so our family time becomes our sadhana time, and our sadhana time becomes our family time. Now, like what you're getting at more is like, on a practical level, like if we have wife and children, we need some time just for them, so we try to spiritualize it as much as we can, that even the time just for them is also something that we do that's Krishna conscious. Our time just for them is, working on a project and it's a project in Krishna service. But it may be a need where like our children's particularly, they have to just play ball or play a board game. And how do you spiritualize it? I mean, it's playing. You can obviously put a tape on, but the fact is they also need complete attention, play. But even that we can do with the consciousness that I'm doing this to raise nice children who will become nice devotees. So the immediate activity is not directly related with Krishna, maybe, but the activity is being done for Krishna ultimately. Just like we're going to our job and we're doing our job, and during our work, we're doing so many material things, even we cannot hear Krishna Katha because we can't have a tape on there, and we're just doing accounts or writing code or, managing some system. So at that time, we're not directly doing Krishna conscious activity, but even that we're doing it for Krishna. So, so certain things we do ultimately for Krishna. Now, in relation to sadhana, my spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada, he repeating Srila Prabhupada, my spiritual master would always say that our sadhana comes first before any service to Krishna. So, so a few times, devotees, hundreds of times in Prabhupada's lectures and instructions, he says that sadhana comes first. Everything is secondary. So first we do our sadhana, just like bathing and eating is, in order to live, we need that. So in order to progress in spiritual life, we first do that. And then once that is done, then whatever time is left, we can do. So again, practically speaking, for a grahastha, the most we may be able to do when we are working with a family is our sadhana, taking care of our family, doing our job, and maybe one more thing in the week. Because sadhana takes time. It's just a fact. It takes time. And if a grahastha can do his sadhana, that by itself is a very great accomplishment. Because grahastha life is so, there's so many twists and turns in it, so many things, obligations. So if we can, Hanuman Swami, he says this, and actually today we are observing his Vyasa Puja, so it's very interesting that his came in, but he actually said this directly. That's why I was remembering him. He said that it's very hard to find a householder who's waking up every day in the morning, chanting the rounds nicely. And so he tells his disciples, he tells them openly, if you can just do your sadhana nicely and take care of your family and do your job, that by itself, Krishna, we make a huge advancement. And then on that platform, whatever more we do, then it'll have effect. Then it'll fructify. But without that basis, that foundation, it may boomerang, like it may not fructify. So that's why sadhana is the basis of everything, and everything automatically will be on our fingertips if we do our sadhana nicely. So that's yeah. So that is kind of the balance there.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Nice point. Nice question. Okay, so Janya.
Hare Krishna, everyone. My humble
Krishna
obeisance to
Mataji.
you. I have one question. So basically, in our heart, Atma and Paramatma stays together.
Mm,
So in layman term, if I say that Paramatma is an instance of Supreme,
mm.
so does the same instance go along with the soul across the bodies till they go back to Godhead?
Sorry, repeat that again.
So when the body, when the soul leaves the body
Mm.
and gets into another body,
Ah.
the same instance of Paramatma also travels along?
Oh, I see. Okay. No, I mean, the Paramatma is the same in everyone. So it's not like, okay, this Paramatma travel with this soul and that Paramatma travel with that soul. Prabhupada gives the example, just like you have one image and that same image is reflected. The sun is reflected in 1,000 different pots simultaneously. So Krishna is one, Vishnu is one, and that same Vishnu is reflected in 1,000 different pots. Those are our hearts. So the same Lord becomes reflected in every pot, in every person. Right?
Okay. And one more question. So I also messaged you So in text 24 of chapter 2, right, it is mentioned that we have two levels of intelligence in souls.
Mm.
So in that case, when I read it further, I understood that our material activities, whatever we do, the impersonalist versus devotees, so that kind of segregation will be there uh,
Mm.
to become that intelligence at the soul level. So just the material activities and the thoughts that we do here actually decides the intelligence of the soul? Or is there anything beyond that?
The soul is intelligent in of itself, and in fact, the soul's intelligence becomes covered by the material conditioning. So it's actually the opposite. When we clean out the material conditioning, then rather than using our material intelligence, we start to use our spiritual intelligence, and that's the intelligence of the soul. So the soul has spiritual mind, spiritual intelligence, spiritual senses. But the spiritual senses and mind and intelligence become covered by the material intelligence. Yes.
Yeah, so they mention that there is two levels of intelligence in souls, and one will be happy being that effulgence of the light coming from the Lord, and the intelligent souls will pick up to be as part of the other devotees in abode of God.
No, that is not Prabhupada's philosophy. Prabhupada's philosophy is that the soul is pure always. The soul has its own intelligence. And those who are materially conditioned, those who fall into this world, they become conditioned by material life. They lose their intelligence. But then that intelligence can be revived by Krishna consciousness, which is removing the conditioning. Right? Yes. Thank you. Yes. Swati Mataji, I'm sorry, I missed your spiritual
Yeah,
name.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna
Yeah,
Mataji.
it was a very nice class, Prabhu. This is Shanti Rupa Devi.
Shanti Rupa Mataji, yes, Hare Krishna.
So, Prabhu, I have a question. I was thinking when you're explaining the whole class.
Hmm.
So, we all know that, Arjuna is a very intelligent warrior, right?
Hmm.
He knows what is going to happen in the war,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
He's prepared. He went to Krishna and, he wants Krishna to come and, help everything, right?
Hmm.
But
Yes.
he's very knowledgeable. He knows what's going to happen in the war. And then there is no confusion before the war, right?
Hmm.
And the confusion only arises when it is, going to happen.
Hmm.
When when the heart actually is started to, So what my question is, Prabhu, even though Arjun is very intelligent, very knowledgeable, he
Hmm.
has Krishna with him, but still he is in confusion, right?
Right.
His heart has overtook his knowledge, right?
Hmm. Yes.
So we as a human beings, I am sure that we are not intelligent enough like Arjuna for sure. So we take some decisions in our life with our intelligence, and
Hmm.
then when it comes to action, we always have that moral, you know, clarity, and we have that guilt and regret because we are not sure whether our decisions are right. Because when there is no go back, when you have to take the decision and you have taken it, right? And I have never heard or in any way that Arjun, after the war, Arjuna has felt any regret, right? He
Hmm.
has surrendered, and he knows that when the Kuru women are feeling sorrow, he
Hmm.
has, bowed his head, and then that shows his humility and acceptance. But
Hmm.
there is no regret.
Hmm.
Why I have done the war and why I have killed all these men,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
So how can we, with our less intelligence, and always our heart takes over our mind and intelligence and knowledge, how do we know what, the decisions we took is actually dharmic, and how do we get that moral clarity, Prabhu? That's my.
Right. So, a very nice point, because that's Arjuna's problem, right? He says, I don't have the moral clarity. And then he asks Krishna, he tells Krishna that um, you guide me. So Krishna consciousness is higher than mundane morality. Right? Surrender to Krishna is the most moral thing, but it's still higher than mundane morality, because surrendering to Krishna makes us realize the higher principle. That's why Prabhupada, in one place, he's talking to an ethics professor, and he says, good means God, and God means good. Without direction from God, we cannot figure out sometimes what is good and what is bad. Like, this is the big problem in ethics, that it's always a decision. 90% of the time, it's a decision between good and good, not between good and bad, or between bad and bad. And which one do you choose? There's no solution. Ultimately, you have to see, well, what is Krishna's desire? What does Krishna want us to do? And that's why Arjun has no regret, as you were saying. That's why he's confused in the beginning and then he's clear at the end, because he realizes that love is beyond ethics, and the highest ethics is love. That's why we follow bhakti ethics, because the highest uh, solution is love for God. Right? Does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhu. That's very simple and clear. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Nice point. And that's why devotional service is actually the most, they say ultimate justice is mercy. It's, we can be just and all these things, but ultimately only through love, and this is Lord Chaitanya's philosophy, we can conquer the whole world. And that's not our love, it's love for Krishna that conquers the world. And then, Janya, thank you for sharing this again. So now I understand your question. So yes, this is Prabhupada here is speaking about the difference between those who want impersonal liberation. They're not exactly Mayavadis, but they are Brahmavadis. They are not offensive to the Lord, but they just want to merge in the Lord's rays. And he says those who are more intelligent, they actually want to go to the spiritual world. So here he's talking about intelligence in the sense of knowledge. Right? Those who have a higher knowledge, they are wanting to go to the spiritual world, back to Krishna. Um, um, like Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur, he says, even those who go to Vaikuntha, they are not so intelligent because they're missing out on Krishna's pastimes. Vrindavan, Rajadham, that's the highest. What to speak of impersonal liberation. And Vaikuntha is like our goal. Going back to Lord Vishnu is so nice. But those are devotees of Krishna. They don't even want that liberation. They want only Golok Vrindavan, Vrindavan Dham. But many souls and many very, very, very great devotees, they are in Vaikuntha. And those who are a little unfortunate, they are deciding to merge. And then Prabhupada says they get bored and they fall back down to this material world. And then by the mercy of a devotee, they may get that higher knowledge and then want to enter the spiritual world. So here he means intelligence more in terms of knowledge. When we have that higher spiritual knowledge and that association, that mercy, and thus we become, more intelligent in that way, more knowledgeable, then we can surrender to Krishna. But the intelligence is the same in every soul. It's just that it becomes covered when we don't have that spiritual knowledge.
Yeah. And the knowledge availability or that knowledge absorption is again dependent on so many material things and the God's mercy.
Yes, in the material world it is, yes. But in the spiritual world, it's there within our heart.
Oh,
See, this
okay.
impersonal liberation is kind of in the middle of the material and spiritual world. It's spiritual, but it's not fully spiritual.
Okay, okay. Yeah, clarified many
Yes.
times. Thank you very much.
One second. Nitai Charan Prabhu. Sorry. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sojanya. Very nice point you brought up here, actually. This is from the purport directly from Prabhupada. Nitai Charan Prabhu.
Hey, Krishna Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for a wonderful session. Always, always. Mm. The 4.9 verse, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take birth again in this material world.
Mm.
So it sounds so simplistic. Like, it's my foolishness that I try to understand previously. Like listening to Mahabharata, Ramayana one time, and then you can go back to Godhead. Maybe
Mm.
that's true also. Prabhupada says even in one lifetime you can go back to Godhead.
Mm.
But the very deeper meaning of this is one who knows the transcendental nature. You veti tattvataga. It can take
Yeah.
multiple lifetimes to know the tattva actually and apply practice. So, and then in the last point and the purport of that verse, Prabhupada says, one should therefore cultivate Krishna consciousness with faith and knowledge, right?
Mm.
It's most important. One is knowing knowledge, like what you said. There are a lot of professors who
Mm.
translate, who may be informed actually,
Mm.
information versus knowledge, and
Yes.
consequently the transformation because of that. That's more important. So that's the
Yeah.
whole bhakti process, right? Is my understanding correct?
Yes. Yes, Prabhu. Absolutely. Because see, there's a difference between knowledge, jnana, and vijnana, or realized knowledge. And 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 knowing means tattvata, knowing in truth, right? And if we actually know it, then we will act on it. And if we're acting on it, that means we actually know it. Right? So this is not just superficial knowledge. This is realized knowledge. And that comes through bhakti. So Prabhupada actually had many lectures on this verse. He also says this, that janma karma chame divyam, this actually happens through the execution and the process of bhakti. Because then we actually know Krishna. When we actually serve him, when we actually love someone, then we actually know them. Like I know, Mr. Biden by reading, Wikipedia. So I know him, but do I really know him? No, the people who are actually around him, who love him, who serve him, they know him. So this is very true, and that's why there's really. I kept an alarm to remind me of something, and it keeps. So uh, that's why this remembrance of Krishna is a revival. Knowing Krishna is a revival of actually our original spiritual form. Right? That is actually really Janma Karma Chame Divya. Because if we know Krishna, then we will know ourselves. And if we know ourselves, we know Krishna. And that's why there's really no shortcut. Sometimes we think, okay, if I can just read some book, I can go back to Godhead. But eventually, all these verses come back to the same thing. The process that Prabhupada has given us, which is, purifying our existence, realizing Krishna, knowing Krishna. Um, but it should also be said, and Prabhupada says it in that way also, that the basic knowledge of Krishna, that Krishna is a person and our job is to serve him and we are his servants. Just this basic knowledge is so rare. That Krishna is the master, is a person, and we are their servant. It's so rare. Like even you see great Ram Bhakts, you watch the Ram serial, and the person who's producing the Ramayana, I mean, this is like he spent his life absorbed in Ram. He's speaking there and he's saying that ultimately all of us can become Ram. Or Ram is a Manushya. He's a human. He's a divine human. Like even like the whole of India literally misses it unless they get this knowledge from a pure devotee like Prabhupada. So we are very fortunate. The fact that we know this, you know, pretty much, the path is clear. We just have to develop it more. Because who in this world has this knowledge? They always mess it up. Even Christians, very good Christians, they'll say, well, ultimately, God is impersonal. They don't know his nature and qualities. They don't know who the Father is. So yes, realized knowledge is higher, but even if we just have the knowledge, that's why devotees are so special. We are so fortunate also that we are on the path for liberation. That's a wonderful point to end with. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Prabhu.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. So next week we will finish chapter 4. I apologize, we really went over time this time, and I'll be more timely next time. So I had some flexibility this time because we have a reading group that we do after this, and this week it was not there, so I could extend it longer. So thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you
Hare
so
Hare
much.
Krishna
Prabhu.
All
Prabhu,
glories
thank
to
you
Srila
Dandavat
so
Pranam.
Prabhupada.
much.
Hare
Dandavat
Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
pranam.
Prabhu.
Dandavad
Thank you.
Pranam.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.